So this evening I spoke to Jack Kennedy, who is a volunteer at SLYC, which is Strangford Lough Yacht Club. So Jack helps promote sailing to uh, people that may not be involved in the sport, and runs courses. And um, one of the most interesting things is he started running adult sailing courses, getting adults into it who might previously think sailing was a closed off activity to them, and getting them involved in understanding the sport. And then also there's a big junior scene as well in terms of developing kids. So we talk about the courses he's running, also the importance of full water, in terms of the mental health benefit and the importance of having a clean and protected water environment to play in almost, and have these recreation activities on, which is so increasingly important these days. What else did we talk about? We um, talked about the importance of volunteers in clubs like that and the benefits volunteering can give people. We actually had a good discussion after the podcast about it, about like why, like that we talked about whys, as in between networking and developing skills. But then we talked about like why do you do it? So is there like an underlying uh fear of not being in a community like driving this to help and become part of a social scene? But anyway, like I'm sure there's, what we concluded was there's lots of whys to why people get into volunteering, and not everyone's the same. So perhaps you can pick out some of the things that apply to you. And yeah, so that was the gist of our chat. um so I hope you enjoy our chat. Certainly did, and it was a lovely evening before Storm Agnes arrives tomorrow. So that'll yeah, we made the most of the good weather tonight. This will probably be my last podcast here in Northern Ireland before I head away. I'm heading away for a while to see my girlfriend in Australia, and then we're doing some traveling around there and New Zealand and Fiji. So hopefully I'll get some coastal catch ups down under. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to updates, so you can find out when I post a new episode on our email, so at coastalcatchups.com. And I think that's about it, guys. So I just want to thank you for listening again and supporting. Your feedback is really appreciated. Your sharing my content's really appreciated. I hope it provides some value to you in terms of new information, or hopefully some sort of entertainment. But yeah, I just want to say thank you again, and I'll catch you soon.
It's all about Marie and the coastal sea, aquatic life and everything in between. So sit on down and take a seat. Coastal catch-ups with the stampede.
Jack, thank you very much for agreeing to come on to Coastal Catch Up.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Are you sure?
I think so.
You've came straight from work, I imagine?
Yes, I have. Rushed out of the office for you.
Have you had dinner?
No.
Yeah. I didn't bring dinner, so apologies.
No, I'll just have a coffee. It's fine.
No, but seriously, thanks very much. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure our listeners will find it interesting to hear what you get up to on the water. So,
Yeah.
And probably you might gather up some new recruits.
Hopefully.
But we'll delve into
Yeah.
that later. But could you just start by telling us a bit about yourself in terms of growing up in the? In fact, let's talk about this before it gets dark.
Yeah, this amazing place.
So this is Strangford Lough, White Rock Bay, just before Storm Agnes. So it's really, it looks really
Very
good.
calm,
Yeah,
calm
it's
before
nice
the
and
storm.
calm.
Yeah.
And we're in Strangford Lough Yacht Club
Yeah.
doing this talk. So you spend a lot of time here, but before that, go back to growing up and stuff.
Mhm.
What does this place mean to you?
Yeah. So I started sailing I started sailing down here, coming to Sunday sailing. I suppose before that, my brothers started sailing here as well. So the reason I sort of got involved in the sport was that my parents sent them on like to Sunday sailing. They got sent to courses, so it just naturally was a progression that I then was sent as well. We were sent to be babysat in the summer, basically, is how I would have put it. Mum and Dad didn't sail. Yeah. They did socialise down here. They sort of knew quite a few people, but they weren't really big on the water, so it was sort of new to our family. So yeah, how it started for me personally was coming to Sunday sailing, which is something also we still run, and I'll talk about that later. And then that naturally progresses to going to sailing courses in the summer, and then sort of getting into it quite a bit, starting to then get your levels, start racing, meeting friends. Going off doing some races here, maybe a few competitions elsewhere. So that's sort of how it started. So it was all very dinghy based then. So yeah, about 7 years old when I started, and I continued dinghy sailing maybe till I was about 15, 16, and then moved on and did other stuff after that. So
other hobbies or?
No, still sailing. Sort of once I got involved in this, everything else. I used to play tennis and swim and stuff, but all that
just cast down
aside. Yeah, that died to death. Just wanted to be out in the water. I took a bit of a break when I went to university. So I did a lot of sailing and dinghies, and then went to university. Came back. Hated dinghy sailing, hated wearing wetsuits, hated being wet. I liked being on the water as opposed to in the water. So I bought a Sonata, which is like a small keel boat, when I was 20, I think. When I just come back. So that is what I sail now. So there's a bit of a fleet here. Actually, camera may be able to see my boat.
You should be able to. It's a red one?
Yeah, the red one with the black sail cover. So there's about 10 of them here that would sort of race regularly. So we race that in the summer, and we go off and do regattas and stuff down the loch.
See, when you say you bought a sailboat at 20, a lot of people would go and be like, how the fuck does he afford that? But yeah, I think there is that perception, like it's if you want it, if you want to do that and get into it, you can.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm not going to say sailing is not an expensive hobby, because it's expensive in the grand scheme of things, but it is very accessible at the same time. So like the boat itself did not cost me much money. I mean, you're talking like 4,000 or 5,000, which is quite good for. I mean, people see boats as like a massive asset. It's like half the price of a car these days. So yeah, like it is a very accessible sport. If you want to do it and get into it, then it's really accessible to everyone. Even if you are 20. Best thing you could buy when you're 20 years old, in my opinion.
Talking about an asset, I think it's a liability. You're an accountant as well.
What do they say? Best day is when you buy it and when you sell it. It is a massive liability. That's why I'm saying it's not a cheap sport, because I know I've bought it for about $5,000, but I think I spent about 20 on it. So yeah, look, it's expensive. It's as expensive as you want it to be. I think that's the best way of putting it.
I think it's good to talk about those numbers, because there is that kind of, for anyone not in the sailing community, wouldn't know that, and people will be listening to that being going, that's expensive, not going to do it. Other people might go, here. I mean, look, and the thing is, racing a boat is very different to cruising a boat. I could have bought that boat at £5,000 and not spent a thing on it for the 5 years I've owned it, and have cruised around every single weekend in the summer, and you really get your money's worth. I mean, the minute you go out in the loch and you're cruising around, you're just like, well, God, you'd pay 50 grand for it, 100 grand for it. So it is cheap in that regard. Racing where it gets more expensive. Things break, you're upgrading stuff, and then but then you mentioned about the accessibility, like if you, for example, crewing a boat.
So you don't mean going in, like no one should, and this is the sort of instructor coming out in me, no one should come down on day one having never been out in the water and then saying, I'm going to go buy a boat. You are mental, okay?
Did you hear about John Gilmore? Did you hear John Gilmore's podcast?
No, what did he say? Well, I mean...
he had never done any long cruises and left London, bought a boat and headed across the
but he had sailed before?
He had sailed before, but
and stuff,
he did have an idea.
He had an idea. I mean,
it was one of those moments when it was like,
Yeah.
Wow, you actually did.
John's impressive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, so crewing as well. I mean, the best way to get into it is doing courses, or then obviously crewing a boat. If you want to get into bigger boat stuff, getting on a, and there's always people looking for crew.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I'm always looking for crew. I got a call actually on my way down here. Someone was looking for crew, so people are looking for people to come out with them, and they do not expect you to have any idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because as a crew, well, I always say to my crew, the best crew just do what they're told. Unfortunately, my crew don't listen to that. But you know, if you just pull that rope, pull the rope. You know, so
Yeah.
like
You can start off really basic, and
there's no expense in that
Yeah,
really, apart
yeah.
from your membership fees.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
you know, it's very cheap from that
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a really good start to this podcast, Jack. I like that.
Your best one yet.
Yeah, it's going that way. So in terms of, we mentioned about being a Strangford Lough, like how important is this place to you? Like if you were living, could you imagine yourself living somewhere else, or?
Well, I went away to university. I went to Reading University. I spent 3 years there. My degree was for 3 years, and I came back immediately. I studied investment banking actually, which a lot of people don't know. So my plan was to go to London and become one of those
London people.
And sit. I did do an internship in London, and it was the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Okay.
I'm not really. I love London and I love cities. Going to Manchester tomorrow.
Yeah.
I like travelling, but you know I like spending my weekends down here, and you know I like to complain about this place a lot, which will obviously come into that. But you know, obviously, I wouldn't spend so much time down here if I didn't really enjoy it at the same time. So yes, this place does mean a lot to me. Unfortunately.
It's a place to switch off from work, I suppose, and things like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, I mean, Mary said and Hammy said, I think, in their podcast, but like, you know, this whole concept of getting away from your phone and getting away from work and your laptop, and I think even nowadays in particular, this whole concept of hybrid working and working from home, like if you're at home working at your desk, you know, even though you close your laptop, you're not actually away from work, are you? You know, I have a work phone. You know, it's very difficult to get away from work. Whereas when you're out there sailing and you've got no signal, you know, people can contact you. It's actually pretty good, you know. So yeah, it's great from just turning off and enjoying yourself.
So you didn't like London then?
I love London, but it's just I couldn't live there. I enjoy it for a weekend. Have had many good weekends in London, but no, I do really enjoy it here. And like it's just it's a sort of calming atmosphere, you know, and the sort of people around here and the sort of socialising obviously is very important to me. So but no, it's just nice. I mean, look how peaceful it is tonight, you know.
No, like I said, it'll not be like that in
No
24 hours time. But even at that, like, it's quite a sheltered place. Like, I think that'll be a Silverley tonight, and it'll be like, it'll be chop, but it'll not be compared to out in the Irish Sea. It's like a haven.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when like the weather is absolutely atrocious. I mean, I've spoken to people who live in, say, Lisburn area, and like it's really really bad there, and then they're coming down the White Rock Road, and it's like sun and like no wind, you know. It's like a wee mini climate we've got.
Microclimate.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So in terms of your recent sailing, then you have the Sonata. You'd be doing a bit of racing. Yeah. Not that much cruising.
Not much cruising. The boat's not really set up for cruising. It is very much for racing. You know, when my brothers and stuff come home from, they live in like London and south of England, I do take them. We would cruise around a wee bit. I am looking for a cruiser potentially. I know I'm talking about buying another boat when I'm already spending a fortune on the first one. So yeah, I think I will look at doing more cruising. I have been crewing a wee bit on larger boats. I went to West Highland Week on a Bavaria, a Hunt 38 or something, which I enjoyed. And West Highland Week is a bit of a cruise, to be honest. Like, it's a bit of a booze cruise. It's not a race. Well, it's a booze cruise with a start and finish. So like, yeah, I do enjoy the cruising aspect as well, you know. And I would like to actually see a bit more cruising on the loch. I don't think there's that much, you know. You maybe pass one or two boats, but like, it would be nice to do a bit more cruising here.
There's so many like little islands and inlets and stuff like that. Like, you could spend a good summer and not get around.
Yeah,
Anything,
I mean,
you know?
there's some beautiful, like Paul Island stuff, some
Yeah.
beautiful wee
Yeah.
anchorages, you know, and like they are, I don't want to say underutilized, because almost what makes them beautiful is the fact that no one
Yeah.
else is there.
Yeah.
So I say it with a slight caveat, but don't want everyone coming down. But like, yeah, no, it's a beautiful place to cruise as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, watch this space. I'll be buying a cruiser, I think, at some
Okay.
point.
Cool. I think a lot of people would be Vega. I know it probably sounds bad. Like, so at the start we're like trying to maybe encourage people to get into sailing, and then we turn around and go, don't come down here.
No,
because
you can't get into
this is our swamp.
Yeah, get in the sailing, just don't do it here. No, look, I think it's you know, and it's, I suppose it's this like sustainability piece and looking after the environment. I think Strangford Loch's an area of outstanding natural beauty, or whatever the terminology is.
I can give you some more.
No, it's fine. I think
Sure?
that
There's
me.
lots of designations. Okay, well, I'll get to environmental. Okay.
But I think that's what makes it beautiful, you know, is the fact that it is sort of not untouched, but touched by a few hands type of thing, you know, and it's not like everyone's coming down. You know, during COVID, I think there was an element of that, to be honest, like, because no one else could do anything in the world, that they thought, well, let's go down to that water or that bay and like go out and whatever. I mean, it never got that bad, but like, yeah, it will be a balancing act. And I mean, we have found, even in this club and in clubs around the loch, memberships growing quite a bit, which is great, and we want to see more people on the loch and, you know, doing more courses and people getting more interested. But I think it's more of an education piece, and like, you know, the reason it's like this is because we're trying to keep it like this, so you need to try play your part as well if you want to play in our playground, type of thing.
Yeah, no, everyone needs to be on the same page, because if you have people coming down and there's a car park over there, for example, come down, litter everywhere, you know, like, clean up after yourself, so simple. There's loads of wildlife around here, seals haul out on the island nearby, you know, how close can you get, like, know how close you can get without disturbing them. So yeah, it's all about education and common sense, but I think that is a part of sustainable, being utilising this place sustainably, is if you're encouraging people to get on the water, you're teaching them how to do it in a good way, without just letting everyone go loose.
But people need to be, I think that's what it comes down to, people need to be educated about it. You know, we can't just expect people, shouldn't let people come down and do it and then complain about it, you know, actually spend the time with them and educate them, which I think is maybe something that's missing at the minute. I know Rory is doing a massive part in the
podcast.
Yeah, Rory. Yeah, so like
and Rory.
And Rory. But you know, I was even amazed actually when Rory puts up stuff on Facebook about, like, you know, how much crap he collects, and I was actually amazed even how much there was on the loch. So like what he's doing, obviously what you're doing here, talking about sustainability, is great, but I think, you know, we need more of it. Obviously, the more popular the loch gets.
Yeah, and it needs to be like, people will turn up, come down for a weekend. Like, there's a sign over there, I think the council put up, which gives people probably an understanding of the wildlife and stuff. But I definitely think, I think it should almost be like drummed home. Like, if anyone, say you speak to someone coming down here, like, first thing you say be like, oh, like, seals are on the island there, what, like, don't, you know, keep an eye out for them, you know. I don't know, I think it just needs to be brought up in conversation a bit more. So there's paddleboarders there as we speak, probably.
Yeah, going over the seals.
No, that's Rory's lot. That'll be good. I'll be here. So from sailing, Jack, then you got into instructing and volunteering.
Yeah, which is where it all went south.
So we can just skip over this if you want.
I'm really joking. This is why I'm here.
How you doing?
So from sailing, from getting involved in Sunday sailing, then doing the courses, and the natural progression is, as you will know, you know, we've all done it. You at 14, you get the calling. Okay, would you like to be an assistant instructor? It's a very proud moment, you know, when you're 14. I think, Christ, actually, this is amazing. They've recognised me here. So yeah, you get the calling at 14. You want to be an assistant instructor, and then you sort of move into that, sort of instructing realm. So this is where you start teaching people how to sail. Obviously, like anything, there's a sort of hierarchy, and my personality sort of is, if I'm in a hierarchy, I want to be at the top. So I was at the bottom of this triangle as assistant instructor, and sort of very quickly realised, like, well, who's above me? How do I get there? So I put that in a sort of jokey way, but I worked my way up, became a dinghy instructor, became a senior instructor, did a bit of powerboat instructing as well, actually. So sort of was crossing a couple of different ways, became the chief sailing instructor. And then I suppose at that point I was doing a lot in the sort of instructing, training part of the club, but there's a lot more to this place, as everyone will appreciate. Any club has a lot going on. You've got like the bar, you've got social events, you've got sailing events. So like naturally, as like a sort of very enthusiastic 16 to 20-year-old who has their summers off because they've out of exams, out of school, out of university, you get pulled into things. So I got pulled into helping out doing mark boat and committee boat and sailing events. I got roped into doing the bar when I was of legal age. I think I'm better behind the bar as I am on the other side of it. So yeah, then I started sort of enjoying that, building up a bit of a network, a bit of a community. It feels good to sort of be helping out a place that's given you so much, and that was sort of my sort of thinking. It's nice also to sort of see what you do make things and prosper further. So like, I started getting a bit obsessed, like helping out at the bar, right? Okay, well, how can we, get more bar revenue? How can we, make it a better place, etc. Running events, running a fundraiser for the RNLI, etc. I sort of just started going a bit mental. So
you like looking at the Excel sheet.
I like, I'm a typical accountant, like income, outgoings, surplus. No, I'm not that. But, well, I mean, someone accused me of being that bad. But there's a lot of various, benefits of volunteering, and I definitely saw those. So when I was about 20, 21, after doing a fair share of volunteering, the committee, so the sort of 14 people that run the club, approached me and said, would you like to join? And there's an opening. At that time it was for communications, and I think they really needed someone to come into that space to sort of sort of cut the mold and really change it up, because I think historically they'd sort of struggled with it, as they would, given being 60 plus. But yeah, so I sort of joined the committee at 21, which I think is fair to say, well, I've always claimed it, is the youngest committee member at SOIC, which is even quite an personal achievement. So I sort of spent 3 or 4 years doing that, and introduced a lot of different things, like revamped the Facebook that hadn't been used in like 5 years, set up an Instagram page, and sort of really tried to reconnect with everyone, set up a WhatsApp group, which doesn't seem revolutionary to anyone like under 25, 30, but is pretty revolutionary to anyone above that age. So that is where I really focused, on top of then doing still like the likes of helping out at the bar, helping at sailing events, still heavily involved in the training. I sort of started as sort of that chief instructor role, chief sailing instructor. I sort of ended up doing a lot of actually instructing and developing of instructors instead of actually doing a lot of teaching myself. I found myself developing them, which again was nice to see, people sort of developing themselves and learning new skills, which is, I enjoyed that part of it quite a bit. So yeah, that's sort of where I got to. And then 2 years ago there was a bit of an internal reshuffle, and I was asked to come on and be training captain, so sort of head up the training, powerboat and sailing, which was basically the next step up from chief sailing instructor. So finally, after 12 years, got to the top of that hierarchy, which I was telling you about. So yeah, I've been doing that for 2 years basically, and so this is where my sort of volunteering journey has got me to date.
Do you think the work you did to train instructors coming up has paid off now? Like, there's a good pool of instructors.
There is. Like, I think, well, there's two aspects to that. So I think there was a natural sort of progression for me to become training captain, because I have literally gone through our training program. You know, never mind as an instructor, but literally from 7 years old, whenever you come to Sunday sailing. So like I myself have gone through it, and I am a product of what we do here, which it works. And I think people are surprised to hear that, like, you know, when I've trained AIs, and they're like, you know, in 12 years time you could be replacing me as training captain. No way. But like, well, hopefully they do, because I can't do it for another 12 years. But you know, it's all very achievable. Do you know what I mean? So it's that, I think it was natural for me to take over, because I knew everything that went on. But also, yes, you're right, in terms of, I had obviously done a lot of training as I came up the ranks, and that is showing that sort of the senior instructors I have now, like, really know what they're doing, and I can depend on them quite heavily. But as you'll know from the sailing world or sailing instructing, like, it's a very difficult workforce to manage, because they're there for like 5 years max, and then they're away, you know, getting proper jobs. Which, you know, I did. As you did, you know, as most of them do. I got a proper job, but I still like pretending. You're still here. I'm still here. It's difficult in that regard, because you don't have them for too long. So but the benefit of that is then you're developing the next, you know, group of people. So it's like constantly like succession, and you're like, you know, developing these people and making them amazing instructors, and they go off and get amazing jobs, and actually it's because of me and what I did with you, and not because of your education. Not because of your education.
It does, like, I think you're right. It does, like, that sort of skill set of actually managing like a teaching program and the safety of young kids and all that responsibility. Like, it looks great on a CV. And if people were inclined to go across the world, they could work in anywhere doing that sort of thing, because it's an industry.
I don't think, still to this day, I think when you become an AI or a DI, or particularly when you become an SI-18, you don't realise like how much responsibility you're taking on until actually you've almost stopped doing it, and you look back, like, you know, having 35 kids on a sailing course, and you're the person in charge at 18 years old is pretty intense. Some people would say it's crazy.
A good example is when you have like 20 dinghies out there with little kids on it, and then a thunderstorm comes in, and you're like,
I've been through
what
a couple
they do?
of those. I know. But like, what I would say from an instructing perspective, but also a volunteering perspective, the sort of soft skills you learn, like, can never be
working with people and
overlooked. Like the team sort of working together as a team, leadership, like organisation, presentation skills, communication skills, like all of these things, people shouldn't underestimate how much that will impact them going forward into their proper jobs, or like, you know, into life generally. So it's a really good thing to get involved in.
And you can apply that to any, like, other water sports, like any windsurfing, kayaking, you know, the skills. Because at the time, you're right, looking back on it, you don't realise. I think it's because you're just so clued in and involved in it, and you're just,
you've got your blinkers on. You're not really.
And you're just doing what you know, and that's it.
Well, you're just used. I mean, you're like, oh, I've become an SI now. I have to be in charge of these 30 kids, you know, and get paid for it. Like, but if you look back on it, you wouldn't do it.
I know. So so that's your journey up the hierarchy. As part of, I don't know if this is part of what you included, but there's more adult sailing courses on.
So when I became training captain, I sort of wanted to, what we've done here historically is like our bread and butter, and we're really good at it, like teaching kids how to sail, like, you know, the sort of RWA levels 1 to 4. I think what we, and sort of power courses, power level 2, I wanted to sort of branch out a wee bit and offer a bit more, so introduced a lot of adult sailing courses. I think the timing of that worked out very well. I don't think it's down to my genius, to be honest with you. Takes a lot for me to say that, but, you know, coming out of COVID and a period of, like, you know, 2 or 3 years of no activity, but also in that 2 or 3 years, people falling in love with this place and wanting to come down and wanting to do new skills and wanting to get outdoors, that played really well into our hands of then, well, why don't you come learn how to sail, you know? And that was perfect from the adult learn to sail courses, and, you know, we've had a lot of success from those in terms of introducing the sport to new people, getting membership out of those people joining, some people even have gone on to buy literally like 35-foot yachts from that, which terrifies me because I've taught them everything they know. And yeah, some people would say I don't know that much. But yeah, I mean, that from that perspective, it's been unbelievable. And like I think the main thing is that the adult sailing courses, and like, well, any of those courses, the main objective is not to teach you a thing or to babysit you for 5 days, but we're trying to introduce this new sport. You know, don't want to get really cliche here, but it's this whole point of like breaking down the barriers. I mean, you mentioned at the start of this podcast, like people think sailing is, there's a lot of barriers to entry, expenses. There's an element of class behind it, or like who you are, where you come from, and like we have done so much now to break down all of those barriers, which I think we are doing, and it's showing. But I think we were very lucky from a time perspective. And then I've tried to do other courses like safety boat courses and first aid and shore based stuff, and just sort of expand out. We've also done a lot around racing. So we've done a lot of adult racing, and then we've focused a lot more on the kids racing side of things too, which is good, and that's sort of still an area of focus for me because we've been very good at churning out sailors, but I would like to start churning out racers and seeing them going to events and competing on behalf of their club and winning things. So that's sort of a focus area for me going forward. But yeah, I mean, the adult sailing stuff has been very successful.
Very good. Yeah, no, it's interesting you said about it's all well and good teaching kids and stuff, but if you probably talk to Hammy Baker, he'd be looking at the ones that are trying to get go on the Olympic pathways to the Olympics. And,
yeah, I mean, and like there is an element of we obviously I see if one of my sailors got the Olympics, I'd be the first one there expecting a ticket being in their box, being like, well done, Jimmy. But I think we need to be I want to be sensible too, in that if you're not going to become an Olympic sailor, that doesn't matter, But as long as you maybe go buy a boat, you join, you go crewing, or you just enjoy the loch like everyone else, then perfect. We've got more people involved, and that's what we want—a bigger community. That's really what my objective is, to be honest with you. If then they go on and compete in Commonwealth or the well, they can't compete in the Commonwealth, compete in the Olympics, then brilliant,
Yeah, very good. So from all this, Jack, how do you manage your time between work and doing this? Do you?
Yeah, better be very careful because I'm sure my employers will watch this. Look, I would be lying to you if I said it was easy, me managing my time, and I will maybe touch on volunteering in a bit, but I think you have to be very good at managing your time. I'm maybe an exception to the case. I think I'm slightly on the other side of the spectrum in that, I'm heavily involved and I give a lot of time, volunteering time. People don't need to do that level of volunteering. I think clubs do suffer slightly because generally what happens in a volunteering scenario is that you do have this core group of 5 or 6 people that give up an unbelievable amount of hours, and the risk there, and it's sort of a thing that people are talking about now, is this sort of idea of volunteer fatigue or volunteer sort of burnout, which I do see becoming an issue. So I think what is important and what we are trying to do here now as well is that when you join this club is not a members club where everything is given to you, and you can just go off and do your own thing. We want you to get involved. What are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what could you do for us? And we're not looking to give you a job, but we want you to buy into it. We want you to want to give your time, and everyone, it makes you feel good. But I do think there is that other piece of being conscious of your time and making sure you don't bite off more than you can chew. That's a very good way of me not answering what you just asked me. And that I don't really manage my time.
I think, man, same with any club, people sometimes think as soon as they say yes to something, they'll be roped into this and that and all the rest. And I suppose if you're not very good at saying no, it could happen. But at the same time, I probably could volunteer more, but I feel like I'm good in the sense that if there's an event on here or whatever, I'll be down, we'll offer our boat and stuff to help, help with things. and like you say, like if someone's joining and they're experienced behind the bar, or, you know, like something that just suits them, and just every now and again, just
Yeah, I think you're completely right. You don't want to fall into that sort of that, you know, that possibility you could be having volunteer burnout. Right,
Yeah.
no one wants to be in there. You know, you obviously do help out a lot, and it's not necessarily people like you who understand how clubs run, but it's we're obviously seeing a lot of people come to the sport now who, you know, I think in general there's been a massive move to like this sort of pay to play concept, and like you go off and do something and you give someone a tenner and you get something back, and then you go home and that's it, over with. Like we are not, you know, we're not a leisure centre. Do you know what I mean? Like we aren't you know, funded fully by paid staff, etc. So it's, we're trying to teach these people who may not be used to it that this is a volunteers club, and like, you know, muck in where you can. We're not going to be chasing you if you haven't done 10 hours a week. Do you know what I mean? And like sort of saying, right, come on, get down here and clean the tables. But you know, we would appreciate people getting involved when they can. I think as well, volunteering has taken a bit of a hit recently because, you know, like any, you know, if you've got a sort of a high pressure job, if you've got a family, you know, a lot of external pressures now, cost of living crisis. I mean, why in a cost of living crisis would I give up time for something I'm not getting paid for? You know, so volunteering is going to be the first thing that goes on people's list of, you know, to do. So I get, you know, it is becoming a bit more of an issue, but it really shouldn't. You should not underestimate how important volunteering is to the place that you're volunteering, but also to you personally, and how, you know, it develops you as a person, and the network you make, and the sort of friends you have, and you know, there's a lot of benefits to volunteering. You know.
Yeah. No, you're right there. Actually, about the other things, because I was thinking about, like with the typical thing is like the feel good, but there is all those other things like having a network and a social scene, making friends, and developing skills. Like there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you learn a lot. I mean, like knowledge sharing and stuff, like learning off other people. I mean, you learn a hell of a lot. You know, you could become quite isolated actually if you just do your job, go home, and you know, go to the gym, and then, you know, that's it. So like meeting all these different people and learning from them and stuff, and you teaching them. So like that's why we want to try encourage more of that. Which hopefully we will in the future.
Nice. So Jack, what's next for you then in terms of volunteering, in terms of being on the water? Any plans?
So I've obviously mentioned about potentially buying another boat, so that'll be sort of in my spare time to do a bit of cruising, hopefully. Still do a bit of racing in the Sonata, get better, hopefully. I've been trying for 5 years to get better, and it's not really happened yet, so I mean, I don't know if that's going to work, but volunteering wise, look, I'll stay on as training captain. I think that sort of plays to my strengths. And we've sort of built a very sort of reputation, very, you know, good reputation here as a sort of training centre. Keep doing what we're doing in terms of the adult sailing stuff, and as I said, sort of the kids racing, sort of building that a wee bit. When I find more time, and I'm going to have to because I'm going on the courses soon, I want to move into the sort of race official sort of side of things. So for people that don't know what that is, it's basically being involved in organising sailing events and being the race officer and being in charge. People would think I'm a sort of issue.
There's a theme here, Jack, and being in charge. But
so essentially being able to run, you know, sailing races and doing it properly. So it's been an area I've always wanted to get into. So I'm doing the course in November, and then maybe, you know, next June time you'll be racing an event that I'm in charge of for racing.
And then see you at the Olympics.
And you'll see me at the Olympics. Yeah, cool. Exactly.
Nice one.
So that's really what the plan is. Obviously coming into a bit of a difficult year, I sort of go into hibernation now. But this year we've sort of started looking about a winter training. So there's day skipper theory courses and yachtmaster theory courses and first aid courses and stuff running at the club. And then we'll be sort of come January time. People always laugh at me because Mary Martin, I think, said in her podcast about like looking at Easter time or April time for courses. mine go up for sale on the 1st of January. I think I had nothing better to do. So yeah, January time we'll look to release courses for the summer. So if you're watching and you're interested, adult sailing courses, kids sailing courses normally go out on sale in or for booking in January.
Okay. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, and
Yeah.
if they're listening and do they have to become a member before they
No,
sign up for
no.
courses?
So if you want to do a course, you don't have to be a member. It's slightly more expensive, but like if you want to do a course, see what it's like, get involved that way, then yeah, do a course definitely. Then you can look at membership after that. So yeah, definitely. If you're interested in it, definitely look at our website and look at getting a course.
Okay. And you mentioned about Sunday sailing
Yes.
a couple of times throughout the
Yeah.
chat. What's that? What's
So
that?
Sunday sailing is basically our like intro to sailing if you're a kid. So if you're aged 7 to 15, yeah.
Okay.
We run Sunday sailing from May through to the end of September. So it's just finished. So yeah, again that will start up in May time, beginning of May. Go out for booking January, February time. You don't have to be a member to do Sunday sailing. Okay. So you can go on and it's like £35 or something, and you're allowed to come down 3 times to see if your kid likes it, and if they like it, then you can look at joining. But it's a good way of sort of introducing them to the sport before like booking them on like a 5-day sailing course in the summer, and they're crying every day, and I have to ring you to come out of work to collect your kid, please, because Jimmy wants to go home. I always use that name, Jimmy. So yes, Sunday sailing is if they're interested in sort of just dabbling their foot in it.
Okay.
Then
trying it out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Trying it out.
So you can try it out, and then if maybe you want to go full in, you can look at booking the courses in January.
Yeah.
Great, Jack. Thank you very much. So,
no problem. Hope you enjoyed that.
I did. That was good. So I enjoyed. I know you're a figurehead, so I'm a member of this club as well. So I know you are a figurehead. You flying the volunteering flag and developing youth sailing, and I think something I chatted with Hammy as well about like longer plans. So like you might not see what's happening now, these kids developing and all the rest. Like you probably won't be in another 5 years until you see them come back as instructors, and that sort of thing. So
yeah, it's a bit of, you are playing the long game slightly, and
but it's good for the continuity of the club as well.
Yeah, exactly. You need someone, and like I will, I'll be passing the baton on at some point whenever I'm ready. So
I think so, Jack. I think you're enjoying it.
But anyway, well, you might be interviewing me in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. 5 years' time, if I'm still doing this, we'll see. Hopefully I'm making money from it at that stage. I can do it full time.
And you can pay me. Yeah, brilliant.
We can do it somewhere nice and warm as well.
Exactly.
Listen, Jack, thank you so much, and thanks for sharing the info on. I'm sure if anyone's listening, I'm conscious the last couple of episodes have been sailing related, but I think they've all been really good in the sense that they provide like a snapshot of how to get involved and talking about things like the barriers to sailing and how to get the increased accessibility. I think it's really important to share that. So all those things been great to hear you chat about, and I want to wish you luck on getting a cruiser. I hope you get faster in the Sonata, hopefully, your racing boat, and I'm sure I'll see you about. So thanks for coming on to Coastal Catch-Ups.
Thanks.